Welcome to Mana's Seal YouTube channel. The previous video link is on the description box or on the top right card. Volume 16, The Half-Elf Godkin. Accepting Blueberry's guidance, Ains arrived at an elf tree. Of course, Ains knew where Or was staying. Therefore, being led here was unnecessary. But, seeing as today was supposed to be the first time Ains had come here, he couldn't act as if he did. Since he didn't see them outside, it seemed like they had gone inside the house first. Thank you very much for showing me the way here. Was there something he was curious about? Blueberry, who was acting as if he was examining the elf tree, said in a disappointed-sounding voice. I am glad that it seems I was able to be of service to you. Should anything else arise, please do tell me. Shall I carry your luggage inside? No, I would hate to have you go to all that trouble. Please pay it no mind. Is that so? You may ask anything of me, if you wish. Ains didn't know why, but Blueberry was coming closer to him without any hesitation. Humans had a concept called personal space. Maybe for dark elves, that personal space was closer than for ordinary humans. When he thought about it, living in a dangerous place where monsters could appear in the surrounding areas like this village also meant that you had to cooperate with others to survive. Perhaps that was even being expressed in a situation like this. Be that as it may, there really wasn't a single thing he wanted to ask him to do. No, there really is nothing. Just guiding me all the way here was more than enough. Is that so? Well then, Fio, please give my regards to Or-san. Why only Or? Ah, so that's what it is. Ains had arrived at the answer. Crap. I forgot to introduce Mare, didn't I? Or called out his name, but that was it. However, the merits of introducing Mare to the adults weren't that big. Since he just needed to have the children know who Mare was, he could just let Or take care of that. Understood. I shall pass it along to her. Seeing off Blueberry, who kept looking back at him, Ains went inside the elf tree and, just as he had expected, the two of them were waiting for him there. Good woe. Ains suddenly hesitated and corrected his form of address. No, I kept you guys waiting, didn't I? I know this is abrupt, but what shall we be doing from here on? Wait. Let's quit it with the excessive honorifics. I understand very well that, if we have Or the ranger's ears, then no matter what dark elf in this village tried to creep up on us, she wouldn't fail to hear their footsteps. In other words, right now, this place is safe, which means there's no problem as to the kind of language we use. However, acting is something where if you're not always on point, the slightest thing could reveal the faults in your performance while we are in this village. I'm Or's uncle. There's no need for you to use honorifics with me. Or groaned. When she cast a quick glance at Mare, who was next to her, she dropped her gaze just a little bit. Then, while looking at Ains with upturned eyes, she asked, Uncle, what are we gonna do now? Mare nodded his head in agreement beside her. Good. Attagirl, no, this way of speaking is also awkward for me as Or's uncle. With the same kind of feeling as just a moment ago, that's fine, or something like this. Or showed an expression that you could say was either a forced smile, troubled, or even that she was embarrassed. Confirming that it wasn't an attitude of no good, even if she said it was no good, he had intended for them to take on a more affectionate attitude than usual. Ains announced to the two of them. Now then, no, maybe something like, let's see. For the time being, as we had planned at the start, our plan to stay in this village for a week at the longest hasn't changed. Would that be better? Because we don't know how the situation might change or is changing. I can't say anything with certainty. But I'm planning to take it easy and gather some information for now. Oh, well, uncle. When you say information, what kind of information is it? Good, Mare. That's got a nice ring to it. Ains also had a feeling that this wasn't much different from Mare's normal way of talking, but for the time being, he would praise him. After glancing at Mare's bashful expression, he started his explanation. Mare had even asked him about it on the way here, but he said that he would explain everything once Or was with them to buy himself some time. Thanks to that, he had time to properly prepare an excuse for why they were staying here. It's everything. Everything about this dark elf village. Because hereafter, there may come a time when I'll have the two of you act like ordinary dark elves, you know. No, that time may never come. However, if that time does come, you would be considered suspicious if you acted without knowing what the customs among the dark elves is. Therefore, we'll think about the future while we still can. So I have been thinking, what if we are able to experience the customs of the dark elves, even just for a little bit in this village? Wasn't that a pretty good excuse? And the important part was about to come up. There may also come a time when I will need to have you two in particular act like ordinary dark elf children. So how about you two try playing with the other children? Of course. This isn't an order or anything like that. I don't mind, if you go about it in a better, different way. From the perspective of the plan to have the two of them make friends, these instructions were probably a little last minute. If he stepped into it a little more, it would have become an order, but if he didn't, there was a good chance that they wouldn't associate with the children. However, the two of them having curious looks on their faces was something he had not foreseen. What? Why? I thought it would be perfect because I refined my simulations of how they would respond over and over again. Did I leave something out? Are you sure it is alright? It's okay to not gather information on the theocracy. This time it was Ains who had a curious look on his face at Aura's question. That as it may, not even the slightest movement would show on an illusory face. Why would they even be talking about information on the theocracy? Mentally, Ains was tilting his head in confusion. It should have been the case that he had told them this was a paid vacation, back in Nazark. He had a memory of saying that this could simultaneously serve as a test of whether or not Nazark could function without any problems, even with 3 of its top brass Ains, Aura, and Mare missing. However, I never talked about getting information on the theocracy, did I? Because unlike Albedo or Demiurge, their karma values aren't that low. Let's just ignore what the two of them did in the kingdom, for now. On the whole, whatever feelings of kinship these two might have might only extend to the elves and dark elves, or they might simply just hate humans. Boo, that's right. If we can obtain information on the theocracy as well, I'd like you to do that too. Yes. Understood. Huh. Yeah. Gotcha. Smiling at Aura, who didn't appear used to speaking in this manner yet, Ains loosened the strings on their luggage. Okay. We're living here for a week at most. Let's organize the merchandise. Ains's group had brought dwarven-made tableware and various other things. With them, they had become quite the burden. These were things that were meant to draw the Dark Elves' interest, same as those souvenirs from just a while ago. It was also for that reason that they had to be arranged in a way that would be overflowing with appeal, and not just carelessly placed randomly. In other words, they were making a showroom. While Ains, who had absolutely zero confidence in his aesthetic sense, was collaborating with the twins to decorate the elf tree, Aura stopped moving. Uncle. The sounds of 6 sets of footsteps are heading this way in a straight line. There's no indication that they're erasing their presence and they're approaching us. Judging from the lightness of the footsteps, they're children, I guess. Oh. Ains also stopped decorating and turned his gaze toward the entrance. He truly hadn't imagined that they would come today. As Ains was feeling thankful toward the children, the face of the boy he had given the candy to peek through the entrance. Ordinarily, you would call the act of peeking into other people's homes nothing else but rude, but it seemed to be normal in this village. Hi there, did you perhaps come to invite Aura and Mare to play, I wonder? Yes. That's right. Was he a little surprised by the appearance of the room? Ains gave a broad smile to the boy who answered nervously. I see. We've been waiting for you. Alright, you two, go on and play with the other children. Uncle. It's just, the room's not cleaned up yet. Oh, that's alright, Mare. Your uncle will take care of the rest. Just leave it all to me. Your uncle doesn't have much confidence in his aesthetic sense, though. If you say later that it should be arranged another way, we'll go with that. Ha ha ha. Aura and Mare looked shocked at the laughing Ains. Certainly, if it had been the usual Ains, he wouldn't have laughed with a ha 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 or even at all, so it wasn't as if he didn't understand their feelings. Although he thought his persona as an uncle was a little unnatural, if he were questioned about it later, he would insist he was just acting. If that is what uncle says. I got it. I'm coming, just give me a sec. Well then, let's go, Mare. Yeah. The twins went out, and a smile of satisfaction that came from the bottom of his heart showed on Ains's face. This makes me want to give even more candy to the children who came to invite Aura and Mare to play with them as a token of my gratitude. No, wait a minute. How would those two react if they found out the children had come to invite them out of their desire for candy? They might be shocked. Honestly, he didn't think those two were that delicate, but it's because I'm not Shigama-san. It's not as if I know everything about those two. That being the case, I should probably act based on the assumption they will be shocked. After all, if this became some kind of trauma and they said they couldn't make any friends, I would never be able to face Shigama-san. That said, I wonder what kind of game they're going to play. Ains narrowed his eyes and yearned for the old days. Suzuki Satori's glory days. He remembered the figures of those 40 people and one more person who gathered together in a game called Yggdrasil. The friends gathered together there each lived in their own different worlds. Those who lived in megacorporation arcologies, those who lived in the inferior dome cities, those like Satori who lived in a harsh environment, and those who endured even more deteriorated environments. The same game united those total strangers that would have had no contact with one another otherwise. Games can overcome borders. It does overcome borders. No, I wonder if it's correct to say that only through games can one overcome them. And, finally, you can become friends even if you live in different worlds, just like we did. The overwhelmingly powerful guardians and the frail children. When they leave his place, their connection would probably also be lost. And yet, I would be overjoyed if they learned that the existence of friends was this wonderful thing. It was only natural, but the figures of those two weren't at the end of his line of sight. And yet, it was as if he could see the figures of the twins. If they played with the children and found out they couldn't get along, then it couldn't be helped. It was the same for Ains too. He didn't know exactly how many players he had interacted with in Yggdrasil, but it was probably a considerable amount. And, yet, there existed only 41 people who he could call friends. It wasn't as if he could build a friendship with every person he encountered. All the two of them needed was the chance to meet a person they thought they could be friends with. If they learned that making friends wasn't so bad after all, then he would consider everything that happened here to be a success. Ains dropped his gaze toward the ring finger of his right hand, where he wore no ring, and smiled just a bit. I've also thought about this before, but shouldn't I be striving so that Demiurge, Albedo, or even Sheltier could make friends? Well, maybe not. He decided not to think about that matter too much, because just thinking about it a little bit had ruined his good mood. At any rate, why hasn't anybody come by to see me? From what I picked up when I was eavesdropping with Perfect Unknowable, they should be holding the welcome party any time now, right? Are they coming to get me when it's time? Don't tell me they're planning to make it a surprise. He also had his own circumstances, so being suddenly invited would be troublesome. Above all was the fact that Ains couldn't eat food. He didn't know what kind of party they were holding, but if it was the usual, then even among a gathering of powerful and influential people of the village, food would also be laid out in front of him. In a situation where he absolutely could not touch that food, how would the other parties react? There was no doubt they wouldn't think well of him. If they were totally different races, they would probably think that this kind of thing was normal, and a host who provided food that wasn't palatable to their guest should be reproached. However, Ains had transformed into a dark elf with illusion magic. So while there might be some foods that he could say he couldn't eat due to allergies, he couldn't just say he couldn't eat any of the food. That would be impossible to gloss over with his usual excuses. For this reason, it was necessary for him to take the initiative and prepare reason ahead of time. Or are they being thoughtful, thinking that I'm probably tired, so they don't intend to come and get me right away? In that case, I wouldn't mind if they postponed the party itself, but it would still be a problem even if they came to get me after they've finished the preparations. Should I go see them? Ains pondered for a bit, then shook his head from side to side. No, let's give up on that idea. Then, if somebody does come, should I ask the dark elf if they would deliver a message for me? Ains recalled the sights he had seen when he was lurking in the village in his perfect unknowable state. Morning and evening meals were usually brought together, but time-wise it should be any time now, right? Then how about I try asking the person who will bring the food? Or maybe regardless of whether I'm a traveler or not, food is distributed based on one's contribution to the village. If that's the case, then they won't bring food to us who don't work. No, that shouldn't be the case, or has been working hard, and I brought many souvenirs. They'll probably feed us for a week even if we don't work. Of course, even Ains had no intention of not working. He had called himself an arcane-type magic caster. If it were limited up to the 4th tier, he even intended to use magic should a time come when it was necessary. He was even ready to go hunting in place of ore. Since he didn't know how their relationship would progress from now on, he had no intention of accepting any charity. It might still be just a little early time-wise. If they come, I'll just tell them. If they don't come, then I can just go to them. Moreover, there's also information I want to go and get.